veil, wipe away tears, remove all sorrow and all fears, for beyond the veil all is right, all is whole. Grant me this sight.
Okay, this is what we're going to do tonight. We're going to sing songs, and you didn't really expect me to teach tonight, did you? No. I'm near babbling at this point, but I want to hear back from you guys, and I need to know what you got out of it, what you didn't, what you liked, what you missed, do you understand what I'm saying? What you think that makes no sense in the whole wide world, and give me a chance to either admit that I had no idea what I was talking about or correct it. You're supposed to laugh. You always know what you're talking about. It's a joke. It's a funny joke. Thanks, Val. Okay, before I get to yours, Claire, I had a visit with somebody today that, anyway, it made me cry. And she was just so desperate, and she said, I don't know how to trust, I don't know how to trust, I don't know how to let go, because I don't know how to trust. And then I was down there doing all my letters, and I'm a week behind on letters, so I've got a hearty stack there to answer. I got about half of them done today. And several of them were the same thing, telling me what the problems were, and then, but I know that you keep saying that if I would just stop all my effort, and especially when the effort is motivated by fear, that if I don't do all this, then this is going to overcome me. Do you understand? I mean, there's nothing wrong with doing stuff as long as it's motivated by wisdom and motivated by sound judgment, and you know that you're comfortable with it, like as though you're being led by the Spirit. You feel comfortable. But if you're motivated by fear, and especially when it's something that you don't really want to do, but you're motivated by fear and you're making yourself do it, like, who wants to take pills that make you throw up, and sick, and who wants to do stuff like that? You don't want to do it. Who wants to go to surgery and have half your guts taken out? You don't want that. But gee, I guess I better, so if it's motivated by fear, then there's a concern. And I went down to my office and sat there by myself and stared at a wall for a while. And I thought, how is it that I learned to trust? Sometimes it's hard because I have to go back lots and lots and lots of years when it first started. So I went back in my mind. I went back to the very first months and weeks. And I realized that the way it happened for me is it started with little things. Little things. I talk to God constantly, and I talk to Jesus constantly, and I need this, and I'm alone with 2 kids, right? No income, the baby's half dead. Things were rough, but I need this, and what about this, and what am I going to do about this, and will you help me with this, and little things that maybe weren't so little, but they were constant. I think I wrote in one of the books one time. I wanted to read my Bible because they were taking a nap, and so I had time to do it. And I never read my Bible back then without a red pen. It's in a book? And I mean, as silly as that sounds, I couldn't find a red pen, and I knew that in 20 minutes Linda would be awake because she didn't take big long naps. And so I was, I got into, one of my typical frantic states, and I'm looking around for a red pen. I couldn't find one. And I said, I really need a red pen, Jesus, and I cannot tell you But at the end of 5 minutes, I had maybe 8 or 10 or more red pens. No matter where I went, opening drawers, and it didn't make I wasn't looking for them then. Then I just thought, I'm nuts, I can't read my Bible because I don't have a red pen. So I started maybe vacuuming or, moving, doing this or doing that, and there it was. Everywhere I looked, there was another. And I thought, okay, I've got it. But then they still kept everywhere. Till I had this buku mountains of red pens. That sounds so crazy, and, all these years later, I still remember it, but you know what that does to make you feel that you're being cared for, and you're being watched over, and that every little detail is important? If it's important to me, it's important to God. Do you understand? Mm-hmm. It's amazing what it does. Remember the time that Linda years later, she wanted 35 cents to get chili. Is that in the book?
Yeah.
She wanted 35 cents to get chili at the school. And I didn't have 35 cents. And I was so sad. She came into the kitchen when I was doing her breakfast, and I said, sweetheart, I don't have 35 cents. And she said, it's okay, Mom. I don't really want it. Your chili's so much better. I don't really want it. And I knew she wanted it, and I knew she just didn't want me to feel bad. And she went skipping down the hall, and I just stood there. And I moved the sugar canister over to put some in her cereal, and there was a quarter and a dime. If I know, and I knew because it was constant, day after day after day, how very much I was being watched over, and how very much I was being loved, and that the slightest little detail of a need, if I went to him, he answered it. If I raced around trying to figure out how to do it myself, well, then that's what I was doing. I was racing around trying to figure out how to do it myself. John, you're having a hard time seeing me, aren't you?
No, that's perfect.
Okay. And I thought that is a good thing to tell people who are still struggling with, how do I let go and trust? You would always let go and trust after you had about 6 or 8 months of that going, right? You would feel so secure and so safe and so watched over and so protected and so loved and really cherished because, maybe those red pens weren't such a big deal, but they were to me at the time. And then the rent would show up, and then, it was big things too. When my lung collapsed and I got a bill, the doctors never gave me a bill, but the hospital, the ICU did, and I don't remember what it was, but, it didn't make any difference. I only made $200 a week, so I didn't have the money for it. It didn't make any difference what the bill was, but it was in the thousands. And I wrote them and I said, I will send you money every month. It may take the rest of my life to pay this off, but I will send you money every month, I promise, and I always do. Always do. And I started getting two crisp $100 bills in the mail every single solitary week. With and never a postmark on never a return address or nothing, not a note, nothing. And I would send that $200 and it would come every time it came. And the day that it was paid off, it didn't take that long, because this was going on, I never got another one. And you people that know me know that no one knew I had that bill. No one knew I had that bill, and no one knew I had that need. Nobody knew. I wouldn't tell anybody. I only tell Jesus. I don't tell people. That way, when he takes care of it, it keeps that relationship and that safety and security, and I know I'm okay. For big things and little things, I'm okay. And got paid off, and then I never got any more $200 on that. Even to big things, like when I got that cease and desist order, and I told them, no, I'm not closing the clinic. And then, now it's gonna be a big legal thing. The only person that knew that now it's gonna be a big legal thing, and I called my daughter, so she wasn't gonna charge me to do it. to defend me. But I didn't want her spending 2 years of her life defending me and not being paid. She counts on that as an income. So I prayed about it, I wanted to be able to give her money. And without me saying a word, a courier came to the door with a $100,000 check. And then 6-8 months later, that same courier came and handed it to me. I knew who it came from, because I know who the courier is hired to run around. But I never said anything for that to happen. And then about a year later, another 40,000, and then that was it. And when that ended, that 40,000 came in, that was actually the tail end when the Texas Medical Board wanted to settle. So it goes for big things and little bitty things, and big things and little bitty things. But if you continually do that, you can't imagine, can you imagine what that does? Can you imagine how you feel? So when something happens that's maybe life-threatening, or, something to your kids or something like that, I used to say, I've got a whole portfolio full of answered prayers. I've got a whole portfolio of being taken care of. And so when people say, how is it you trust that much? I really didn't know how to answer that until I sat there and I thought and I remembered. And I said, well, it must have been that because I do trust. It wouldn't occur to me not to. Does that help anybody?
Yeah.
I'm sure it helps people out there if it doesn't help you. Does it help you all out there? But you should start that if you don't do it already. With little bitty things, little bitty things. And you'll find that there's never a request that goes unanswered, and not attended to. And why wouldn't you? So that's my rendition on trust. So, go ahead, Claire. I think I understand what you were asking. What you all that were at the retreat. Well, back up a little. There's no way. You guys can turn off your phones. Please. There's no way that I've never seen anybody get healed as long as the person that you're either praying for, or you who are doing the praying, or if it's for you, is still possessing that as a problem of their own. And so I coined the phrase, make the separation. I either coined it myself or maybe I heard it, I don't remember, but it's been going on for years and years and years. That you have to separate yourself from this thing that, even though it's manifesting as though it's inside of you, you have to be able to take it and make a separation, and you have to be able to say, this is foreign to how I was made, and this is foreign to what and who I am. You have to be able to do that. And that's how come we came up with the idea of coverings, and then realized that's what the garment is, that's what the seals in Revelation is, and so, it's not like we created anything new. But covering was the way it came to me when I first began to. A covering over you is not you. Your clothes are not you. Mm-hmm. You take your clothes and you put them over here and you're still standing here. They're not you. Neither is anything else that declares itself able to attach itself to you to hurt or harm you. It's not you. It's a completely separate entity appearing as though it were you, so that you'll buy into it, give it power, and allow it to run roughshod and run rampant over you until it destroys you. Do you understand?
Yeah, no, I agree. I love how you just said it too.
I'll tell them how I said it in a minute,
Yeah.
because a couple people here weren't there. So I'm trying to work
The
my way.
mental image though.
I know.
Is powerful. I definitely took away something from that.
Well, I talked about making a separation for, somewhere like 20-some years, and now, and you know that I had no idea I was gonna say that.
Yeah.
It wasn't in my notes, it wasn't anything that I even thought of. But I realized when I was saying it, because they were all looking at me blank, that, and I keep thinking, what is it that you do? What do you do? And that is what I do. I will, if John calls and says, I've got a bleeding ulcer or something, and I need you to pray, I would know that that was a suggestion of evil, that it was covering you. And that suggestion was acting itself out and making it feel as though it was something inside of you. And the reason that I declare that it's not you is because I know that you're born of God. And I know that whatsoever God has made shall be forever, nothing can be added to it, nor can anything be taken from it. That's Ecclesiastes. And I know a lot of scriptures like that. I know 24 scriptures off the top of my head that say that what God does is perfect and whole and complete, and it can't be tampered with. So if that's the truth, then how is this thing tampering? And it's because we're not holding to that. And we're not saying this is the way it is and this is immutable. This is an immutable fact, an eternal fact of existence. What God has made is a forever deal. It isn't gonna alter or change. So what is this that I'm feeling or says that it's inside of me hurting me or whatever? What is this disorder or confusion or disarray? Well, it's a covering. It is a covering. And we were set here as the light to chaos and darkness and confusion and disorder and madness. So that if we could stand strong as the light in face of disorder and confusion and madness, then we would drive it away from us and from anybody else. But the thing is that you have to know for a fact what is really true here, and you know it. You're not just kind of hoping and making affirmations and, blabbering scriptures and everything because you're scared to death. That doesn't work. You have to be still enough that you really know it. And then you make the separation and you realize I'm actually standing against something outside here that's suggesting evil and suggesting itself a power, when how many powers are there? Uno. See? I am he and there is none else. And that's my name. My name is... So, if we can take that, this is just a visual of making the separation. If we can take that thing and move it out of my vision and push it back here, or take your whole body. Take your body and everything about it, good, bad, or indifferent, and move it aside. You will find that the only thing that's left in this space is this pure, holy, eternal, uninterrupted, never to die, never to be tampered with, never to be overcome existence of God. The light, eternal life. The true light that lighteth every man that cometh into the world. So there is the light, and that's what's left. And that light, it says, is the light of men. That light is the life of men. The life of men. So my life is that light, and that's the eternal truth about me. And what I put over there, that's just a mortal thing. And it's just kind of, it is whatever I think it is. It is whatever whatever I give, whatever I have attached to it. If I think I'm, some beautiful singer or something, and I've got some illusion of something like that, that would be one thing that I would be acting out. If I think I'm this, or I think I'm smart, or I think I could do this, or I think, these are all images of this mortal identity that we wrap around ourselves. We all have images of our mortal identity, and some are good and some are bad. You see yourself as a power lifter. I don't see myself as a power lifter. I don't. I see myself as something else, and I act out how I see myself.
I struggle with that.
What I see myself as? No, don't struggle with it, don't struggle with it. Because, you know, what I see myself as and I act out as, it isn't bad. It's good, it's fine, it's okay. It's just that, that's not the eternal thing about me. So if I just take that, good, bad, sick, healthy, ugly, pretty, makes no difference. And I just take it, push it aside, and behind my peripheral vision, then I have made a separation between the mortal and the immortal. And now I stand in this immortal state that cannot be tampered with. That's who I am. That's one with God. And I must learn now to live out from that. I must learn to it's governed by the Spirit of God. Totally. By the Spirit of life. So if I can, it's easy then because there's nothing, the only thing that would have interfered is sitting out there. The only thing that would have gotten in the way or tried to, you know, put its own 2 cents in, you know, or figure out how things are gonna happen. I've already pushed that aside. So the only thing left is letting the Spirit go out before me and just follow it. And then when you turn around and you look at that sometime later, it has a completely different image. If it had an image of sick, now it's got an image of well. If it had an image of being old and cranky and crotchety, now it has an image of still having a lot of vitality and life and strength and a good mental clicking going, and I'm good to go. You know, whatever, because there's, by the way, did you guys see where they separated 2 conjoined twins today? It was a 26-hour surgery. 2 little baby girls, 10 months old now, joined from the chest down to the pelvis, staring at each other. And they're both alive and they're both doing well. Just need to make a prayer. You know, make a prayer for them. They're in Houston at the Children's Hospital. God, they had a team of 30 surgeons. But they had all their own organs except the liver was joined. But they had plenty of liver of their own. So they could make the separation and suture the liver down. And that's sweet.
That's good news.
It is good, it's sweet. It's sweet. Anyway, that's called making the separation, and it gives you a visual. You know, a lot of people came up and said, I mean, now I finally get it. Once I saw that because I told everybody to do it, close your eyes and do it. And, you know, I looked around, there was only like 2 people whose eyes were still open. Everybody else was really trying to take this image and move it over, you know? So that they could finally get in touch with and know what it feels like, who you really are, without all the imagery of yourself. All the things that have been spoken over you, and all the things the doctors have said, and all the things that you thought, and all the things that mommy and daddy said that maybe they shouldn't have, and all the things your friend said, or whatever.
I see it better tonight than I did at the retreat.
Good.
And what I see better tonight is the fact that you have to have the light. You have to fill the bad space with light and God, and then be able to truth. That's how I see it.
Wait a minute.
It's like, I may be off, but you know how you always talk about, well, so when I moved over here, I moved the illness that's gone, you know, and I moved what I thought was there, whatever, over here, and I'm over here. And I'm filling this space with the truth, and so then that no longer exists. Is that right? Is that how you see it?
No, because now, that was half of it, was to separate yourself. The second phase of this now is to realize, now, this is who I really am.
I got that.
Wait up, I'm not finished.
Okay.
I know what you're saying. I am the light. This is eternal. This can't be tampered with or changed or altered. This is the most powerful thing that has ever been sent here, because it is the very spirit of eternal life. It's God. I am one with God. This is the image and likeness of God. That wasn't. This is. Right?
Now I can see I am He.
And I am He, and there is none
And
else.
there is none.
Yes, I am He, and there is none else. But you still have to, now, you have to capture that space for the kingdom of God. What?
He said bingo.
That's right, bingo. You have to capture that space. You have moved it out here, and you needed to because you had to get straight, and you had to get into the spirit and into the strength of the reality, the eternal reality of who you are. And that's not enough. That's the second stage. Wait a minute. Now that you've done it, and you feel it, and you can do it in a nanosecond, or you can struggle with it for a while if you're not used to doing it, or if you're really, really afraid and really, you may have to really work and, work at it. I don't know. Just do it. You can do it. Anybody can do it. And then once you get settled, and it's out of your mind for a moment and off your sight for a moment, and this is what fills your conscious awareness in your heart, and your soul, and your mind, and your whole being. Then when you know that it's time, and it may be right then, and it may be a week later, it may be the middle of the night, next night, you don't know. Might be right then. But you want to definitely be led of the Spirit now. Now you got to be very still, because only the Spirit can lead you into the right time, the right strength. When the Spirit knows the strength is there and it's hit its maximum potential, it will cause you to turn and look at that lie. And without words, you fill that space with truth. And that's why we said, hi, my name is I am that I am. No, that wasn't it. My name is I am he, and there is none else. You can turn around and take a look at it and just stand with it for a minute, and then I am he, and there is none else. And know that that light is filling that space. Now you got the healing. Now you've just healed it. For somebody else, for yourself, for anybody, for a dog.
Thank you.
There's like 3 phases. You make the separation, and then you stay with the reality of what you really are until you begin to feel it. Then you wait on the Spirit, and you have to fill that space. That's what you were sent to do. The truth makes us free, And the Lord God said, let there be light, and you appeared unto the darkness and the chaos and the confusion and the insanity. Now, do you get it? What a far cry from just thinking, praying and asking God to heal you. That ain't gonna really cut it anymore so much. He'll lead and guide you, but it has to come from your own being, or it's not a healing. It's a patch job, and you never really know when it's gonna happen again. But when you do it that way, or when you follow whatever way that God leads you, and you're following the Spirit, and the healing happens, that's permanent, and you never look at it again. You don't even think about it again. There isn't a popsicle chance in hell that cervical cancer will ever come back on me. Neither will the collapse lung or anything else that I've had in my life that I got a healing from. Because it came from a spiritual reality. And I never look back at it again. Never think about it.
You said something else too, that in that process during the meeting that I thought was really powerful, because you said something about once you make that separation, you know who you're surrendering to. And it was that surrender part, and then knowing the name of God, like who you actually are surrendering to. And it was almost like it just came natural that space would be filled with that concept that you gave.
Mm-hmm.
Is that, once that powerful sense of like, I'm actually surrendering to this thing that is merciful and absolute and has all the power, then it was just like by default that thing was gone. And
During the 2 years that God was teaching us mercy in here, you guys were with me during all that. Quite obviously, when I would make the separation and I would sit very still or be very still for a moment, what I felt was this incredible mercy. It was so intense that I knew that nothing could overcome, because that was the overcoming spirit and presence. And now we're not doing it. But my point is, now it is, I am he and there is none else. I'm the Alpha, Omega, the beginning, the end. I'm everything in between. There is no evil. There's no darkness. There is nothing else. Now, if in your imagination, let's take that mortal identity back. And if you're in your imagination, that mortal identity is subject to any kind of thing that might come to hurt or harm you. Anything. So anytime you get a little boo-boo, you get a little feeling, you think, ooh, what's this? So this might be, then you're trying to fix it. But if you can move that out of the way, stand still and see what comes up, because whatever it is, it'll be what God is teaching you about himself at the time. Because you are the fullness of God. That is the fullness of God. So it could be anything that is being dealt with. Here's what I'm trying to get at. Don't try to fit something in there. That's what I'm trying to get at. When you have made the separation and you've sit up straight. Only because you block somebody when you're in there. Are you tired? No. Okay, well, thank you. I felt bad that if you were tired and I told you to sit up, then I got me. Okay, sorry. Well, I did it again. Let me get my foot out just a minute, okay. Once you have made the separation, how do you get into that consciousness of who you really are? You know, you might feel, you feel completely different because you're not identifying with that for a moment. But how do you get into what you're supposed to identify with?
Are you asking when we have made the separation? How do we get in and stay there, or?
No. When you make that separation, okay, so the whole mortal identity and all of its insanity and confusion. Have I lost you, Joe? Good. Is off here to the left or right or wherever behind you. And now you're standing, and now the next step is to be filled with the reality of what is left here and what this really is. Got it? Mm-hmm. How do you get to that place? Who said what? What did you say?
Well, I'm saying, God, I want to get rid of the mortal, and I want to stand here, and Lord, I just want you to flow through me. And I want to.
Well, that's the answer. I mean, the answer is, I don't think I would pray because words chase that spirit away in me. I just know what I'm standing here, I'm receiving. I don't ask anymore. I used to ask all the time, and then you felt like there was no end to it. You had to just keep on asking and asking. You never knew if it was going to come. But when you stand real still, knowing that it's all right here, waiting to penetrate, then you live in this mode of receptivity. That's really a major key.
Submission.
What?
The submission. That's what he said.
No, it's not submission. It's stillness.
It's receiving. It's reception.
It's stillness. It's just absolute, utter, be still. And receive whatever the Spirit speaks to your heart and mind, and I will send you the Spirit of truth. It will lead and guide you into all truth, and it will speak of me. So if you can get into a place of stillness, knowing that you're in a state of receptivity to whatever comes, then without words, without thoughts, something will begin to form, a strong spiritual image will begin to form, and you will know then, and you hold it. And then when you have it, like I said, you don't know at what point. It might be right then, it might be later. Then when you really have it and you're strong, you turn around and fill that space. You understand that evil, no matter how it appears, is not a reality. It's not. It's a space in consciousness that has never, ever been filled with the truth. It's never had the experience of the spirit of life filling it. And so evil imaginations begin to fill it. Remember, God has created man to walk upright, but he has, what's the word? He has sought out many evil imaginations. And all disease is an evil imagination. All anger is hate, bitterness, war, anything. Greed, selfishness, whatever, contempt, division, whatever it is an evil imagination. If it's not an image of the Spirit of God, it's an evil imagination. And so, part of that imagination is to make sure that we think it's real. And to make sure that we're good and afraid of it. If we think it's real and we're afraid of it, well, then it's got us. So I know that when I put everything over there, you think that you put your mortal identity in something very real over there, you actually put a space. And that space has all kinds of ideas and thoughts and beliefs in it, but it's still just a space. And I'm telling you this because the simplicity then, once you are filled with what's real and true, the simplicity of turning to that and letting that space also be filled with what you are feeling and knowing is like a walk in the park. It's like breathing. So you don't get into contention with evil. Do you understand? Did that make sense? No?
It makes
Yeah.
sense.
If it didn't make sense, tell me, I can do it again.
It does.
Yeah, it's important not to give space or place or power or substance or anything to evil. Let's think about it for a minute. How many creators are there? Okay, then did God create it?
No.
Then it has no substance and it has no life. It has no intelligence. It's a space, not yet occupied by truth, not yet occupied by that light and that substance of eternal life.
That's a really good analogy that most everybody can understand.
Which one?
That what you just said, that an evil imagination is simply a space that hasn't been filled with truth and light.
That's all. Don't make evil something that it isn't. Don't give it substance and power and position and place. Don't do that. It's to your own peril if you do that. And you know, I've said this 1,000 times, but you know, that Amy and that breast cancer and all that horrible imagery on that x-ray, and she got a healing at that retreat and took the same x-rays to her oncologist, and he said, looks great. And that just tells you that when in her healing, she was able to interject into that space this incredible strength and light and substance that she was actually feeling. And then she took the x-rays and they didn't see anything there. But 2 days before that, 3 days, 4 or 5 days before that, it was a landmine explosion. It was the same with Isabella's leg. I mean, I saw that Laura called and she said, Mom, it looks like it's all white and you can't even see any bone anymore, and it looks horrible. It looks just like a landmine explosion. That's why I used that, because she said that. And then I saw the film the very next morning, and it was a little skinny little 6-year-old leg.
It was the same film, it was the same film, the film had changed.
Well, no, on Amy, the film didn't change. The consciousness of men changed.
The consciousness of the.
Yeah, you want to know what the real miracle is? Not when something changes on our body. The miracle is when all that is peeled off of our eyes and we see what can't ever change. And that's why that time when Jesus took, who did he take up to that Mount of Transfiguration? He took Peter. Who?
Peter, James, and John.
Did he take 3 of them? Okay. And everybody thinks the miracle was that Jesus turned into this light being. He did not. There never was a time he wasn't a light being. He didn't change into anything. And neither do you change into anything. You're a light being, little Annie. You've never been anything but that. The miracle is that the scales, that mortal what is it when you're reading a different language and you translation, the mortal translation was corrected. And no more were you translating it according to what you had been told or believed or thought. Now you saw it clearly. So the miracle was James, John, and Peter could now see what had always been. That's why take it and get it out of your sight, because it's not true. And let be what is true, fill your being, and then turn around and let it, fill that space. There is that story in Luke. I don't know if you've gotten to it yet, John, where Jesus took those 3 disciples up to this mountain, meaning a high and holy place of consciousness. And he took them up there. And before their eyes, he became this immense light being. And he had Moses on one side, and he had Elijah on the other, which is just the law and the prophets, declaring that this light being is a fulfillment of all the law and the prophets, okay? And they saw this light being that once was their buddy. I think that is the coolest thing that ever happened.
Amen.
Don't you think that's just so very cool?
Amen.
He didn't become something he wasn't. The miracle was they now were able to see. There you have it. So the films didn't change. When her consciousness changed, remember there's only one, and remember there's only two states of consciousness, the mortal and the Christ. The pure, eternal, and the convoluted human insanity. There's only two. And how many people are there really? One. One only begotten Son. One. Now, if that person, the scales were pulled off of her, the mortal thoughts and beliefs and imagery was removed out of her sight, and she was lifted into this incredible Christ consciousness, then anybody having to do with her also experienced that, because there's only one. That's why the doctor saw Isabella's leg the next day as perfect, because I got it. I didn't see her leg bad or good, but there's not two of her, there's just me. I mean, what I saw was pretty eternal. One of the doctors knew it, came in and said, somebody in here is seriously praying for this child. It wasn't just me, so was her mom. She was reading a book though, pretending like she was fine. This is how the book was, upside down, and the same page, the whole morning. That makes me cry when I think about it, when I think of how distressed my little girl was over her baby. Trying to be so cool. I started to say something to her about her book upside down at this shot. No, the film didn't change. The film was a reflection of the consciousness of the people that look at it. The blood work is a reflection of the consciousness of people that are looking at it. The MRIs are a result of the consciousness of the people that are looking at it.
Amen.
We don't get a healing meaning that all the cancer goes away or all the whatever it is that we're dealing with goes away and everything comes up perfect. That's not the healing, because we can't change. Whatsoever is born of God is it. This is it. Man, this is immutable. This is perfect and whole and complete and eternal, forever and ever. What changes is the consciousness of the people looking at it. And that only takes one person to get a break in their consciousness, and then everybody automatically. When I was a student nurse, they broke it down, first of all, the first 2 years they broke it down into the 7 major systems of the body. We did months and months and months on the respiratory system, months and months and months on digestive, months and months and months on reproductive, months and months on the skeletal and the muscle and right? Every time we hit a new system, there was a half a dozen or more people in line in the infirmary with a problem there, of the students. Everybody.
All the nurses that either
Yeah, everybody saw themselves as having whatever it was, or the possibility, or, I don't know, the weaker minds got just pulled and sucked into it. And then the next, 3 years after the first 2, we broke down into the disciplines like obstetric and psychiatric and, pediatric, medical, surgical.
Michelle, that just made me think of all those shows that came on in the late 60s and 70s, Dr. Kildare and Dr. Marcus Welby, MD, and all that. I bet everybody got sick after Monday night from watching all this.
Well, I totally agree
Right,
with
well,
you.
now there's all those horrible shows. I don't
Now all
watch
the
them,
crime, you know what the crime rate has done since all these, crime shows? No, everything has an effect. The crime shows have an effect, everything has an effect.
Commercials for, you need to go to your doctor for this.
And all that doctor shows, there was one I used to watch, I forget, just one. Oh, ER, something ER.
Just ER.
Hmm?
She's called ER.
And I would jump up, get on my knees in front of the TV, and I'd say, "Bertilllium, get the bertilllium!" I was like crazy, I got into this whole. If that's not, get the bertilllium, you idiot! And then they'd say, "Somebody get the bertilllium," and I'd say, "Okay." I mean, I was in it. You can't tell me, all the war shows. I got so tired of the History Channel and the war shows.
That's on YouTube now.
She's sticking up for you behind. She says she's trying not to cough, leave him alone. It wasn't that bad, it was the very meticulous. The meticulous. And you can't win. Can't win. And it's the same like road rage. Have you seen that commercial? I don't know what it's for, but somebody sees somebody drop something and reaches and runs after them and says, "Here, you dropped this."
Yeah.
And somebody else says, "Here, let me help you cross the street." And somebody else, do you know? Somebody,
Pay it forward.
yeah, pay it forward kind of a thing. And they say, if you,
It's a domino.
it's a domino effect. Everything is consciousness.
They even have squirrels doing it on one of them, squirrels causing a wreck. Have you seen that one?
Which was,
You just can't watch this, watch TV. This is just.
but you have one person that cuts you off, and then you're just so upset, and then you're too upset to be calm and letting these people in when they're trying to get in, and, like, do I own this road? I don't own this road, here, you get in here. But no, everything, the good is contagious, and the not good is contagious. That's the same with disease. You wanna know that the increased incidence of breast cancer since everybody started going around that silly
Pink ribbon.
pink ribbon thing and talking about it, and all the athletes are wearing their pink socks, and everybody's talking about, be aware, be aware, breast cancer aware. Well, you know what you just did? You know what you just did?
Invited it.
Let's walk through leukemia. What is that going to do for leukemia? You walking, tell me what that's gonna do for leukemia. Well, it's gonna increase awareness, and that's going to be good, and that's a good thing? Do you see? When I was a student nurse, we saw our first systemic lupus erythematosus patient that ever, first diagnosis. Now, half of the people that call here for help is lupus. Awareness. 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 Why don't we have people awareness of strength and life and the intrinsic strength that's within each one of us that really can't be tampered with, really can't be, nothing can be added to it and nothing can be taken from it. Why don't we do awareness for that? Do you understand?
Michelle, they do it on the highway. I travel 410 west toward 90,
The deaths.
just
They
about every
post
day.
it.
The desk, but the electronic signs,
Yeah.
traffic congestion to Highway 151. Expect a delay. Sure enough, there's a delay. They've increased it back to Fredericksburg right now. Fredericksburg Road, expect a delay. You get to 151 where you're expecting the congestion, as soon as you pass that exit, 70 miles an hour. Before the exit 20, bumper to bumper. And that sign tells you on the road, expect a delay, and that's what you get.
Right, that's exactly.
It's increased without even any real reason.
The consciousness of expecting a delay causes the delay.
It's a good thing that everybody thinks that.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. And
So you know what I
that's,
do to combat that? I don't turn on the radio. When I get ready to give the traffic report, I just shut it off.
If there's an accident on the side, or if there's an accident on the side of the road, on the shoulder, I don't even look at it.
I'm not, yeah,
Yeah, right.
and I'm fine. Pay attention to it. Okay, so what we're saying here is that everything is consciousness. Yeah. And so you do your part to hold the consciousness of truth. And then that has its effect. You know, if you see expect a delay, you can say, no, what I expect is the Spirit goes before me and makes the crooked way straight and opens up every door and makes the place easy to the path to flow. And when you're out there, you're flowing in that path. And then by the time you get there, everything's cool. You can be the consciousness that corrects what weaker consciousnesses, or uninformed, let me use it that way, uninformed consciousnesses. Just do it. So, what do you think?
I never got to say what I like.
Oh, well then, please do.
I really like Saturday morning, that was my very best.
The iniquity, imputing not iniquity.
Yeah, and when you started talking about who we really were, or who we really are, that was my very favorite part. That
Well, I
touched me.
talk about it all the time, so
I
what
know
did I
you
say?
did, but it touched me differently.
But you have to tell me what I said.
I don't know exactly what it was, but you said that it just really hit home with me when you talked about that Saturday morning. And you never hardly made me cry. I sat there and cried the whole time. I mean, I was just really touched and moved the whole morning.
Because iniquity is not imputed to you, and what God sees is so
No, I don't think
perfect.
it was really that. I just think it was when you were talking about who we really are and how we were sent with the light and that. I mean, it was just really, I was just really, I thought that was the best part.
Mary?
Well, because everyone's talking about the light, and when you said, I am he and there is no other, I am the light and that is the darkness, or there's light and dark. I mean, that exploded in me because of all the principles of light. And it was like, I've never seen light and darkness fighting when I turn on a switch.
No, there is no.
Yeah.
And here's another one. Have you ever seen the nighttime fighting against the sun when the sun is rising?
That's right, that's right. And the principle that light, they've proven can bend to get where it's going. And I'm thinking, that's right, God's light cannot be stopped. It goes where it's supposed to go.
Somebody wrote a song years ago, and one of the things was, you know there is no battle, for the light engulfs the night. You know there is no battle, for the light engulfs the night. Now, if you just have the image of the light engulfing the night of some conscious thing that you're holding, that's how simple it is. Think about what I just said, okay? Let's just say somebody has an addiction to cigarettes or something. You know there is no battle. They think they can't stop because they think, oh my God, I've tried and I can't. Well, they're saying this horrible conflict. Do you understand? I mean, they're locked into this awful conflict. But if you got what you just said, and you saw the simplicity of the light engulfing the night, the simplicity of the sun coming up and the light the darkness just fading away, that's how simple that shift would happen in their soul if somebody would just do it for them. Just let that light that's so intense, so eternal, so uninterruptible, let it appear and just watch the darkness fade away, fade away, fade away, fade away. Same with blood work. Just let that perfection, that thing popped. My emerald popped.
I think it was Bruce.
What?
Here, I think it was back here or something. The water bottle?
No, I thought I saw it do something.
Yeah, it's so microwave. I'm sorry.
Is it okay? Okay, thanks. Just, if you know, you can just, the simplicity of helping somebody through something by just seeing that light of the truth of who they are, rising up like the sun rising in the morning, and just engulfing the night, whatever it is they're believing. It's not difficult. It only takes one consciousness to heal a multitude. I mean, I'm really getting something here, I don't know if you guys are, but it was whoever just said that light, you.
That's very clear.
It's so clear and it's so simple. All of a sudden, this terrible battle that people go through with addictions or with anger or with, you know, anything that they, I mean, anything that they don't want in their life, and it's still there, you know, dominating them. Disease. If you can see that purity and that wholeness that cannot be interrupted, rising up like the sun, and watching the nighttime fade back and realize that's just the most natural thing in the world. No battle, no problem. You know, it's not an entity. Darkness is the absence of light, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes.
Isn't that all it is?
Yeah.
The sun got, I don't know what the sun did or the earth did, but whatever happened, the sun's still shining. The earth kind of turned its back on it for a minute. I guess that's how it happened. I don't know, I'm not the greatest in that remembering. But then the sun starts coming up and the darkness just kind of fades away. There's no battle there. You can do it with anybody. You can do it with any disease. You can do it with anybody.
It's kind of like flying the show on a dark, overcast, gray day, and you're down in this lower level, and the jet breaks through the cloud.
Boom, there's the
Beautiful
sun.
blue sky, it's right there. I think about that often.
The problem with that is that jet needs all that strength and propelling propulsion to break through that. I want you to see the simplicity of the sun coming up and the darkness just, and so you can look at a person and know that this is being believed, this terrible imagery of disease in their body or something, and you can just see the light of the truth, just ascending, and know that as you see it, as you bless it, as you strengthen it, as you acknowledge it, as you feel the presence of it, as you feel one with it, it's just doing this.
It was nothing.
No, you know that the next time that that person's looked at, that's gonna be great. The problem is, here's the problem. The problem is that until they can do it on their own, or join in with it, they go back to the concern of this disease, or all that they've been told, or what's it gonna look like, or oh my God, or I'm afraid to have it looked at, and then sure enough, nighttime came again. So it has to, that's why to me, teaching the truth is so much more valuable than just healing people. Because, you know, I had years of that. And I'm not kidding when I say 2 weeks later, they were back in the healing line again. You know, it's just, it was just beyond what I could deal with. There has to be something that rises up in their own soul and lets that thing fade away. But you can do it for them, with them, so that they become stronger and stronger and able to do it for themselves. Got it?
Well, I did have something that was wonderful, I guess, and that I expected, but I didn't know what was gonna happen from the retreat. I had revisited something earlier in the week in my prayers about, why don't I feel like I used to feel in the beginning when I understood these teachings? It was like a little kid all the time, just wow, 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 when things were coming to me and revealing. And I heard earlier in the week, just desire me.
What?
Desire me. And so I stayed all week long in this super space of just love and contentment, and again, information. So when I got to the retreat and you put us through that, of removing ourselves, again, I felt something that we were studying when I first came here. And that was just get out of the way of it. Open up and just get out of the way of it. And that happened for me, and I heard so much love and so much perfection and so much love for everyone there. I didn't feel like we were separate bodies at all. I just felt this entire room of love and one. And I was overjoyed with it. And I just kept feeling these things and hearing perfection. And I just can't even imagine anyone living there sad or hurting, Marie limping, or anything. I just thought everybody was perfect. And it continues. Today I woke up and wrote something, and I was writing what you taught us, and then I wrote omnipotent, alpha, with a line through it, omega. And every time somebody walks through the room, they know, get on the other side of the line. Don't go down under the line. But I wrote something else, and I started to write the word sent, because we have a little blackboard on my kitchen counter. And I wrote after that, what did I write, Claire, or Annie? Something from whom you are. And I wrote the word sent, and it never would write right. So I said, well, it's from whom you are, period. We're all tied into just being one.
You know what's neat is everybody gets something different. You all know Kelly, the short redhead that stood up and talked. And she used to come here. She's moved to California, but she came to the retreat. I just love her. But what broke through on her, she said, I could get it tattooed on my forehead, the word sent. She said, when that hit me, then I knew everything shifted, because she'd been evicted. She was, she was given up for adoption. That adopted mother was horrible to her. And then she sought out her mom, and her mom had been praying for 20 years. At that time, they had only closed adoptions, and you never knew where your child was. But Kelly went to work, and she found her mom. And look how close they're, so close right now. That was her mom sitting next to her.
Oh my God, I didn't know.
I didn't want to
I
draw
love
attention.
sharing stories that everyone's honored me when they share those stories. And there was such closeness in the.
What'd you think about that lady who didn't know what to say when they asked what her husband died of?
Unbelievable. Q&A was as good as Friday night.
Did you love that?
I can wait.
Tell him to stop breathing. Somebody in the back of the room went, Then that made me laugh even more.
I actually had people come up to me and saying, why'd you ask that question? Because we had the same thing, so. It's like, so Michelle, you said it. I'm trying to, you said it again.
I never let you off the hook, do I, John? All right, it's time for us to go.
Well, you did a wonderful job again,
Thank you.
and we were all enlightened. I know we were.
Good.
The spirit was there.
I don't think it was anything I did this time, not that I ever do, but there was something that changed prior to the retreat that we've never done before, not like this. Mel has. But I found my prayers are always, let it be clear, so that, and that follow a pattern so they can follow it, so they can have, I want, I just don't want it to be helter-skelter up there. I want it to be like this so that somebody can get it, like you're teaching something. But I didn't this time.
That was one
My
thing.
prayer was for the receptivity of the hearts of the people that came. And it was so huge and so intense and so constant. It was a good 6 weeks of solid. And I know Pam was putting the folders together and making the name tags. And I guess Melissa told me, or somebody told me, that every name she came across, she just stopped and just, prayed that their hearts would be receptive and open. And she said usually it takes, 3 hours to do all that. And this time it took 3 days because she was, so I think that's why we had such a huge response this time.
And I prayed that same prayer, that their hearts be opened and that Jesus Christ be revealed to them this weekend.
That was my secret.
So you're the reason why I'm doing
And that's what that's what we are constantly hearing from everybody.
On behalf of those that travel back to other states that I always meet and talk to, and that's what I do most of the time is I'm a Walmart meet and greeter, and they all told me that they had this overwhelming love that they never knew anybody wanted them to learn it and cared so deeply for them to learn it. And I think that came across clearly.
And I'll tell you another thing that we heard that we never heard before, that the anticipation of what they were going to get out of that weekend on their way there. They said, we've never felt such a huge anticipation and expectation on our way there. And, I think that's the key right there. I mean, we know God's always available. We know that the Spirit wants to teach. It's always there with the truth. But how many times do you spend the time focusing on who's going to receive it, how it's going to be received?
I told my girls all week long I was mush. I said, somebody's just praying their heart out for me.
The people said that walking in. I know somebody's praying for me. I don't even know who they are, and they're saying it.
I felt it so strongly on me all week, and I don't cry a whole lot unless I'm just touched in emotion, but I was crying in all my prayers, and I said, oh boy, somebody's really praying for me right now. And I told the girls, I said, they pray for everybody here, but they haven't let go of my head.
Melissa always did. She always went down the list and spent time praying for each one. But, for the rest of us to feel that so strongly this time, it's just.
My joy was to just
It's cool.
stay in love.
Thank God. Thank God for the Spirit. Okay.
I was more than blessed.
I know. She was in orbit before it even started. She said, oh, this is wonderful. I said, it hasn't started, Pam. I know, but it's wonderful. This is really wonderful.
Reading the people as they came in, I could feel that spirit all over me.
I know, she was completely.
And then to unzip and dump it out. Oh my God.
I'm done.
I hope that's on the TV.
That was the best.
Yes, it was.
It was.
It's just about that simple. It's just about that simple.
You just summed it all up for us.
I mean, that was the whole weekend summed up. Okay, God bless y'all.
Thank
Talk to
you.
later.
I felt alone and walked with sadness so severe. Didn't know what to do. Choked back desperate tears. Longed for hope and healing from seeming lack and fear. And as I walked, I saw a stream. I felt it draw me near. Everything will live where the river flows. Everything will live where the water goes. Where the river touches, everything is healed. The river of life, God's love to me is now revealed. Was it possible I heard the water call my name? I stepped into its coolness and something seemed to change. I looked down at the water and much to my surprise, as though it had a purpose, the stream began to rise. Everything will live where the river flows. Everything will live where the water goes. Where the river touches, everything is healed. The river of life, it lovingly. Could it be, I questioned, but it couldn't be denied. Something good was happening, I knew it deep inside. Everything will live where the river flows, and everything will live where the water goes. Where the river touches, everything is healed. The river of life, God's love to me is now revealed. The water flowed faster and wider, too deep to be crossed. I felt myself engulfed and lovingly was tossed by waves of joy and peace. I tumbled and I spun and saw the river carried me as though we both were one. Everything will live where the river flows, and everything will live where the water goes. Where the river touches, everything is healed. The river of life, God's love to me is now revealed. It filled me with such joy, I thought I could take no more. Then it loved me yet again and rested me on the shore. Fear was gone and in its place a calm and peaceful glow, a gift to me of the loving embrace of the mighty river's flow.